Hello and welcome to a short series on how to make a low poly character like this in Blender. In this video, we'll start by creating the base model. In the following videos, we'll be UV unwrapping it, texture painting, and finally creating a rig for animation. This series is a bit different from what I usually make, and I want to share with you my process and some things I learned along the way. I based this simple character design off of games like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger, and I encourage you to come up with your own design for a character. First, it's always good to have reference images. Since I modeled this character before in preparation for making this video, I already have some images I can use. But if you're making your own character, then you should use your own image references. In an empty scene file, let's go into the front view. Press Shift-A and add an image reference. Then we can select an image of our character from the front. And let's move it up so the feet rest on the floor. And if we set the pivot point to 3D cursor, we can scale it down. Then we can duplicate it by pressing Shift-D and right-click to leave it in place. In the Object Data Properties panel, we can click this number 2 to make it unique. And we'll change this to a side image. Then let's rotate it by 90 degrees. And push both images back so we have space for our model. If you're a beginner to modeling in Blender, you should learn the basic modeling shortcuts before getting started. Here are just a few of them. Now let's add a cube and go into edit mode. Then we can select everything and move it up towards the head and the reference image. Let's press Alt-Z to go into X-ray mode. Then we can add a loop cut down the middle by pressing Ctrl-R. We can select these faces on the left and delete them. And in the modifier panel, let's add a mirror modifier. Now everything we do on the right side will also be reflected to the left. Let's add some more loop cuts and move the vertices on the side to match the shape of the face. And we can merge these vertices at the bottom by pressing the M key. Let's switch to the side view and move these vertices to match the shape of the head, and add more loop cuts where we need them. This is a low poly character, so we shouldn't add too many. To make a simple ear, we can select these two faces and extrude them by pressing the E key. Make sure to switch between different views and rotate around your model to make sure everything is looking okay. Now let's add a cylinder and change the vertices to 8 and the cap fill type to nothing. Then we can move it up to the base of the head to start making the neck. We can extrude out from the bottom edge and press S to scale where we need to build the collar and the shoulders. And we can extrude these edges down to start making the torso. Let's leave a hole where the arms should connect. And we can extrude all the way down till the end of the shirt. Let's also delete the faces on the left and add a mirror modifier. Then in the side view, let's adjust these vertices and connect these edges. And put a loop cut down the middle. Then we can continue extruding down to make the pants. And like what we did for the shirt, we'll leave some holes here for the legs to connect. We can also merge these vertices together, and do our best to move these vertices to match the reference. Now the body is mostly complete, so we can start working on the limbs. Let's select these edges around the armpit and extrude them out. And with these edges selected, let's also straighten them out by scaling them on the X. I also recommend enabling the Loop Tools add-on built into Blender. Then with these edges selected, we can go under Loop Tools and click Circle. Now when we extrude from this, we'll have a perfect cylinder for the arm. Then we can keep extruding out and leave edge loops where we want it to bend. Then we can extrude out from here to start making the legs. A lot of the modeling involves pressing E to extrude, G to move, R to rotate, and S to scale. And we'll keep using the same method to make the cuffs of the pants. And extrude from the bottom of the cuffs to make the legs. And let's add some loop cuts for the knees. Then from the legs we can make the socks. I'm going to return to the neck and remove these edge loops to simplify it. We can do that by selecting both edges, pressing X, and clicking Dissolve Edges. Now let's start making the boots. At first, I was going to continue extruding from the bottom of the socks, but I decided I wanted more edges to work with. So let's add another cylinder and change the vertices to 10. Then we can scale it and move it into place. And let's add a mirror modifier. And we can press Alt-Z to go into X-ray mode. And if we didn't set the cap fill type to nothing, we can delete this face. And let's extrude this edge loop in to make the top of the boot. Continue to extrude down. Then we can extrude these two faces to make the front of the boot. Let's round out the toe by moving these vertices. And we can add a few edge loops. Then let's scale out the sides so it matches the width. Now we can start making the sole. Let's select this entire bottom edge loop by holding Alt and clicking on an edge. Let's extrude it by pressing E. Then let's press S to scale it out. Then we can extrude down to the floor. If we need to adjust it, we can select these faces and scale them on the X or Y. Now we can press K to use the knife tool. We'll use it to cut out the shape of the treads. And after we have the shapes cut out, we can press X to delete them. Then let's select these vertices and press J to join them with an edge. And repeat that for all of the corners. And we can do the same thing for the other side. Now to straighten these edges, we can select them all and scale them on the Z. And we can select the vertices in the corners and scale them on the Y to line them up. And we can try to space them more evenly. Now let's select these edges and the ones on the other side. Right-click Loop Tools Bridge. And let's add a loop cut down the middle. And let's fill in these holes. Now that the legs are finished, let's go back to the arms. We can extrude out from the wrist to make the base of the gloves. To make the hand, let's hit Shift A and add a cube. Go into edit mode, scale it down and move it into place. Then let's scale it on the Z to make it more flat. This will be the palm of the hand. Let's also go into the top view and scale it on the Y. We can also load in another reference image to help us with modeling the fingers. While in the top view, let's hit Shift A and add a reference image. Then we can load in an image and scale it down so it matches with our model. We can also see where to make some adjustments from the top view. Now let's work on the fingers. Select this cube that we made earlier and go into edit mode. Then let's add multiple loop cuts by pressing Ctrl R and using the mouse wheel. Let's select the vertices in between the fingers and press Ctrl B to bevel them. Then we can merge the tops of these triangles to the nearest vertices on this edge loop. And let's straighten them out. And we can make them a bit smaller. Now let's select these faces and extrude them out to make the fingers. And don't forget to check how things look in the side view. We can position these vertices to match the knuckles. Then we can add edge loops for the joints of the fingers. Now we can either leave the fingers straight like this, or we can spread them out and give them a slight curl for their resting position. We can use proportional editing to move multiple vertices. Make sure to check Connected Only, and we can use the scroll wheel to adjust the range. Hands can be tricky, and it can take a lot of time to make them look okay. Let's add another loop cut here. Then we can select these four faces and extrude them to start making the base of the thumb. Then we can push it out and give it a slight tilt. Then we can move and rotate these points to round out the pad of the thumb. Then we can continue to extrude these faces to make the thumb, and we can use proportional editing to move a lot of these points to shape the hand. If we want to make these edge loops more round, we can use the Loop Tools add-on and right-click Loop Tools Circle. After we're done, let's add a mirror modifier. Now let's start working on the hair. We can start by adding a cube, going into edit mode and moving it to the top of the head. Then let's select these top two vertices that are facing us and merge them. And do the same for the bottom ones. Add two loop cuts by pressing Ctrl R and using the scroll wheel. And we can merge all of the vertices here at the top and at the bottom. Then we can scale all the vertices in the back on the Y to straighten them out. Now we have a big hair spike that we can use. And if we have everything selected, we can duplicate it and move and rotate it to match the reference. We can repeat this process to make the three big ones. After that, we can focus on the ones in the front. Then we can do the two smaller ones in the back. Then, to make the ones on the sides, let's duplicate this hair object and delete all of the hair spikes except for one. Then we can move it to the side and add a mirror modifier. Then we can scale and position them. Then we can select and duplicate it to make the last little spikes in the back. We can select whatever faces that are inside the head and delete them. Then that's pretty much it for modeling the character. Once you have all of the main parts in place, it's a good idea to rotate around your model to look for things you might need to fix. To make the shoulder harness for the sword, we can add a cylinder. Remove the caps. Then we can scale and rotate it, and give it a solidify modifier. For the sword, we can keep it really simple. I suggest starting from a plane and just model the silhouette. Then you can extrude it to give it some thickness, and merge the edges along the blade to make it sharp. So that's it for the modeling. In the next video, we'll work on UV unwrapping and preparing the model for texturing. So thanks for watching, and if you found this video useful, please leave a like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments.